So we have some interesting news coming out of New Jersey. They are about to go nuclear. If you didn't know this, which I didn't either until I read this article and did a little research on it, New Jersey has essentially had a de facto ban on nuclear energy for like 40 years now, and that is due to a single restriction. Well, Democratic Governor Mikie Sherrill has lifted that restriction, and now they are making a pretty bold effort to pursue nuclear energy to try to combat rising utility costs, the data centers, and just Trump wrecking renewable energy credits and any progress towards like solar or wind. So they had to come up with a solution, and they may have found one. And I'll admit, when I first read this, I was a bit wary, because normally when you see that rules and restrictions around nuclear power plants like getting cut, being lifted, it's like, well, normally those restrictions are there for good reason, and those aren't things that we should just go willy-nilly and deregulate. And not too long ago, we covered a story about how there were like dozens and dozens of regulations around these plants that were cut by the Trump administration. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. Anyways, I want to get into this story from New Jersey. More nuclear power plants could be coming to New Jersey under this huge rule change. The legislation removes a requirement that nuclear waste be permanently disposed of in a federal facility, something that is not currently possible because no such facility exists. The removal of the requirement effectively ends what had been a de facto 40-year-old ban on new nuclear development in the state. By lifting outdated barriers and bringing together leaders across government, industry, and labor, we're setting the stage for our state to pursue new advanced nuclear power, the Democratic governor added. Supporters of the new nuclear law argue nuclear power provides energy without the air pollution associated with fossil fuels. They also say nuclear energy requires a smaller land footprint than some renewable energy sources. That is true. And this isn't to discount those sources, but that this is true. And if this is the best that we can have to work with, I am all in on nuclear power for the most part. Again, we'll talk about it at the end. But critics say the law ignores unresolved concerns about nuclear waste. Used nuclear fuel is stored in reinforced steel and concrete casks, roughly the size of a school bus, and radiation can take hundreds of thousands of years to decay to safe levels. Retired New Jersey Sierra Club director Jeff Title criticized the legislation, saying it uses the language of affordability to justify rolling back environmental protections and handing out blank checks to utility companies. The governor is signing away our clean energy future. Nuclear power is the most expensive and dangerous way to boil water, and now we're doubling down. Sherrill has appointed a task force to manage the nuclear expansion and rollout. So this Jeff Tittle guy, whatever the hell his name is, he's just wrong. Like, what do you mean it's the least efficient way to boil water and it's the most dangerous? Studies actually show that compared to, I think, even a lot of renewable sources of energy, nuclear per like terawatt hour is actually like one of the safest ways of energy generation. Now, that's assuming that you have some sort of regulation and safety standards behind it. And that's where we get to, I like nuclear power, but I don't like how this overall the Trump administration is going about it, because a couple of months ago, we covered how they slashed over 750 pages from of like guidelines for like security requirements, safety requirements, disposal, pollution. All of this were cut by the Department of Energy from like the regulations on these nuclear power plants. And they took like 750 pages and they condensed it. They condensed it greatly. We're talking like reduced inspections, the reduced like regulations on like how much like how sealed the plant has to be, like how much concrete you have, the frequency of inspections, of course, and overall waste disposal, which is separate from this. Yeah, and it makes me nervous. I have a full video on that. I'll link it in the description if I remember, but take this with a grain of salt. Now, the specific rule that the New Jersey governor here, Mikie Sherrill, had cut it's really a non-issue, despite what this Jeff Tittle guy likes to say. I looked it up, and the rule that they got rid of was basically like, hey, any of the waste needs to be stored at a federal facility, but since that facility doesn't exist, what essentially is going to happen, like he kind of makes it sound like they're just going to be dumping it off on the side of a highway or into a river, which under the expanded deregulation under the federal government, that could be the case. But as it is right now, basically that waste is going to be put in those caskets and sealed, and they're just going to remain on site. I don't see a huge deal with this at all, as long as they are still being properly contained and sealed. I really don't care where you keep it. I think taking it to a federal facility, like transporting it, seems almost more dangerous if you can seal it and contain it on site. So I'm all good with that. But man, you really need to go check out that other video I did, because the federal government slashed so many regulations for these power plants. It is terrifying, and that is what scares me. Like, if I'd be all for nuclear if we keep the regulations as they is. I think they're meeting like resistance in court or whatever, but yeah, so take this with a grain of salt. Anyone who may be more familiar with nuclear energy and the regulations surrounding it and what's all been cut, if you know more and want to elaborate more to say, hey, this is actually, it's not that bad, or this is really bad, let me know in the comment section down below. But in the end, like, this specific restriction that this state lifted, it's, in my opinion, no big deal. All right, it's just going to be stored on site. It does nothing to like change like how these iron or steel and concrete casks are designed. Like, they will still be in there. They just won't be moving anywhere, and that's fine with me. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.